able to configure our image detail component based upon some prop that is passed in. So now we need to figure out how we can also show an image inside of here as well, also depending upon some configuration option or prop. Now hopefully right before this video, you saw another lecture where there was a images.zip file. So here's that file I have right here. If you didn't download this file, please pause this video, go back to the previous lecture, and download that zip. This has 3 different images that we're going to want to show inside of our component. All right, so I'm going to extract this file by just double-clicking on it if you're on Mac OS. If you're on Windows, you can double-click on it and then hit extract here. And once we have that folder, we're then going to open it up and drag and drop all 3 of those images into the assets directory of our project. This assets directory right here is where we put any static content, so like images that don't change, that we want to use inside of our application. So I'm going to open up that folder. Here's my assets folder, and I'll drag and drop beach, forest, and mountain inside there. All right, so now I'll close assets and that other folder. So now inside of your code editor, you should be able to open up that assets directory and see beach, forest, and mountain. Okay, so like I said, we now want to make sure that we can show an image inside of our image detail. We're going to eventually want to customize exactly which image we show, but for right now, let's just hard code exactly one image that will be shown inside of all copies of image detail, just so we can first figure out how to show an image, and then later on, we will fix it up to accept this which image to show as a prop instead. Okay, so to get started, inside of my image detail file, I'm going to go up to my import statement up here, and I'm going to import a new primitive component called image. Then, inside of my component itself, I'm going to wrap the existing text with a view element as well. As usual, don't forget to clean up that semicolon at the end of text. Then right above it, I'm going to place a copy of the image element. This is another self-closing element, so we're going to use a self-closing tag. Then to specify what image we want to show, we're going to pass in an source property. In the browser, you might be used to using image elements with a src property. With React Native, it's the full word source instead. Then inside of here, we're going to pass a require statement. This require statement is going to provide a path to the image that we want to show. This, very much like our import statements that we've written, is going to be a relative path. So we need to make sure we provide a relative path from our image detail, that's the file that we're in right now, up into the assets directory, and then select one of these 3 different pictures. So to get over there, we're going to do a ... Remember that goes up one directory. Then ... again. That takes me up to my root project directory. We'll then go into assets, and then we'll select the beach.jpg image. So beach.jpg. Okay, so now we can save this. And if we flip back over and navigate to the image screen once again, we'll see 3 copies of the beach image appear. Perfect. Okay, so this is how we show an image that's been saved into our local project. Eventually, we're going to want to show an image that we pull from some source online as well. Doing that requires just a slightly different setup than what we have right here, very slightly different, and we'll figure out how to do that later on. But for right now, this is how we show an image that's been saved into our assets directory. Okay, so now that we understand how to show an image, let's take another pause right here. When we come back in the next video, we're going to make sure at present our image screen component is only passing a property called title down to each individual image detail. This prop is allowing our parent to configure a child component. But we also want to make sure that our parent of image screen also configures which image each of these should show as well. So we need to add in a second prop being passed from the parent down to each child. We're going to make sure that inside that additional prop, we specify exactly what image to show. So let's get to it. We're going to first begin inside of our imagescreen.js file. I'm going to find each of my image detail elements right here, and I'm going to add in a new prop to each one. Remember, because this is a prop that you and I are adding in to a component we created, we can use any name of prop that we want. It's only for components created by other people or by React Native itself that we have to use some pre-established prop name with a very specific spelling. So in this case, I think that a prop name that makes sense would be like image source. This is like the image to use, or the source of the image that should be used. This could just as easily been something like image to use or image to show, whatever else you want it to be. It just has to be a name that makes sense to you and other engineers. But I'm going to call it image source. Okay, so inside this thing, we're going to provide a require statement to the image that we want this image detail to show. So once again, we're going to put in require, and then a relative path to the image we want to show from our assets directory. So once again, I'm going to go up one directory, up another directory, into assets, and then I'll get forest.jpg. Okay, so now we can duplicate this prop down to the next two as well. So I'll do a copy of just image source and paste it once and paste it twice. We can then update the second image to instead show beach. So I'll do beach, and then the last one to do mountain instead. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to save this file. You'll notice that my code jumps. That's just my code formatter. Everything you see here is 100% equivalent to what you saw before. It's just formatted slightly differently. So now we can go into our image detail, and we can receive this brand new prop that we've added in. So inside of image detail, that new prop of image source should be inside of this props object. Rather than just accepting that on faith, however, let's do a quick console log of that props object just to make sure that's the case. So I'll do a console log of props right there, and then save the file once again. Remember, to see this console log actually run, we have to navigate to the image screen component inside of our application. So over here, I'll go to image demo, and then I should be able to flip back over to my terminal, which is where all of our console logs appear. And now we can see image source, and image source. You'll notice that they have kind of strange values here of 3, 4, and 5. That's totally fine. These values that you see right here are essentially an identifier that's been added in thanks to that require statement. The identifier is pointing to some particular image. So the property name is definitely image source, and we can essentially just believe that we are getting the correct image in here. All right, so now back inside of our image detail, now that we know that we've got that new prop inside of our props object, we can use that as our source right here going off to the image, rather than the hard-coded require statement. So I will delete that hard-coded require statement and replace it with props.image source. Again, image source, we're using that because that's the name of the prop that we passed in from the parent. Okay, so let's save this, and we can do a final test here. So back inside of my device, I'll go to image demo, and there we go. So we now created a separate reusable component, and we used it 3 separate times. Each time we passed in a different set of props to customize how the component behaved. We're going to use this prop system an incredible number of times throughout this course to customize child components that we create. So now that we've got a better idea of how this prop system works, let's take a quick pause right here and move on to our next subject in the next video.